A very good morning to you, Y in the Morning family. It is Monday and you are watching Y254 TV. I am Hilda Wadidi and this is the Youth and Politics segment. But today I'm joined by two very able guests who I would like to call the watchmen of the court and the government. Amani Aje.
True. We are the Lord Voldemorts of Kenya.
Yes, this is Rose Wanjala. She's from Lawyer Soft Limited. And that is Wakili Ochieng. He's from Den and Bill Consultants. Yes, and they're here to discuss matters LSK and also how the poor people can have access to justice. Habari zenu?
Mzuri sana.
So mukona elections for LSK next month on 22nd of February.
Yes, we did.
Yes. Do you think it's time that the leadership changes from Okero? And why do you think Gishuhi and Mwamu should be the next? What is the conversation going on inside there? Wakili, you look like you're...
Yeah, because Gishuhi or Mwamu, according to the current setup, I don't think they are really likely to be at the fastigium of Law Society of Kenya. We are fronting for a youthful, a young and energetic, a brave, brilliant, new energy. And I think most lawyers in the practice would agree with me that we are fronting lawyer Nelson Harvey, because he is the quintessence of that new energy and brilliance that we need as a society.
Well, but he has been blocked from vying for presidency based on the 15 years experience issue.
That's a fallacy. Because first, the 15 years age limit is unconstitutional because it's in contravention of a panoply of constitutional provisions, inter alia, Article 10, Article 50, Sub-Article 1, and many others. And therefore we are saying boldly that age limit must fall for us to have a brave new bar that is going to champion for the interests of young lawyers. Because you must note that the direction to which our country is heading, it is heading to the direction of the youth, and that we are going to have basically a youthquake beginning this year.
Oh, youthquake, I like
exactly,
that.
Moving towards 2022 and beyond. And that every election year we must appreciate that we are having a lot of interest in the legal practice, and you see that every election hearing period, especially in the general elections, we are having lawyers and advocates celebrated when you see them championing the interests of the public and the interests of those that are in the interest of justice in the Supreme Court and other courts, especially in the presidential election petitions.
Yes, just before you discuss that, because I'd really like you guys to talk about what LSK did during that particular time this country was going through that whole issue of the elections and the petitions. Rose, when we were talking earlier, you said that you're about 15,000 lawyers all over Kenya from the Law Society of Kenya. And my big question is, you've talked about a youthquake. How many youth are represented in that demographic of lawyers in LSK?
That's a very good question. Out of the 15,000, I would say roughly 60% are young advocates, because the larger population of lawyers that have been getting admitted prior to 2012, they were small numbers. From 2012, the number blew up. There were like 2,000 people per admission, which means the larger population are young advocates of 3 years and below in practice. So therefore, this is why myself and Wakili Ochieng here agree age limit must fall. For me, I am looking forward into a future where I currently run a legal tech company called Lawyer Soft, which has created an Android app called Lawyer to connect advocates to clients. This is the future I'm seeing for the legal society, where access to justice is straight from your phone. However, if you look at the people currently vying for the various positions, it's same old, siasa ya 1992. I mean, we are so close to the, you know, what is that system? What was that system called? The Msafara. the line system where if you queue for this particular person, you're whipped to go and queue for the other person. Yes, the Mlolongo system, because there are 2 candidates who have been fronted by LSK. There were 3, and I don't know what happened, and 1 pulled out. So there are 2 male candidates vying for the LSK president position, and then our favored candidate, who, if we may put it politely, our Raila, has been blocked from vying for any position in LSK because of a 15 years age gap. I have been blocked because of a 2-year age gap. I mean, that makes no sense. As a Kenyan citizen, you're free to vote when you turn 18 and get your national ID. You are also free to vie for the position of president as well when you turn 18. So what is so special about the LSK that makes it impossible for you to vie for a position of president until you attain 15 years or for a position of a council member until you attain 2 years? It's about your leadership quality. It's not about how many hours you've spent studying. We're not looking for academicians. It's not how many years you've been alive. The amount of years you've been alive does not equate to maturity, B, it does not equate to intelligence, and furthermore, with the way the world operates, the youth need to take charge because the world is a village right now. You cannot give power to somebody who still thinks you have to write letters to get somebody to do something and wait for 30 days for delivery of letters, because that is what is being fronted. And furthermore, the current cleared 2 persons who are running for LSK, one of them has vied for so long, nobody wants them. And the other I'm sorry. Okay, personally, I don't identify with them at all. I don't. And secondly, they have been breaking so many laws in these campaigns. One of them had the audacity to send, I think Wakili Ochieng, you received the email. One of them had the audacity to send an email to all members of LSK. How, for one, did he get our emails? Our emails are only supposed to belong to LSK. And you know, data privacy, privacy laws, you're not supposed to sell out people's data, right, without their permission. So what you're seeing is LSK is also fronting their own candidate. They have a favorite, who it means if that particular favorite gets into power, we're getting nothing. Yeah, because I mean, how do you give out my email to a third party without my permission for them to send me their campaign poster and what do they call it? the memorandum or what?
Wait first. Now that you've said your Raila has been blocked. Wakili, I have a question for you. This particular person in question, Nelson Harvey, has been associated with the opposition and supporting opposition views. So do you think he'll be objective if at all he gets elected, or will he front opposition agendas?
Perfect. In countries where systems move, where we have programs that are articulative, where we have policies that are to the benefit of universal concepts of people's growth, societies that are allowing people to organically, dynamically rise from the bottom, societies that are supporting policies that are governing structures that can let people move from a particular place to another in a value system, must have people in positions of leadership having their interests publicly declared, so that we know that LSK supports a government that is not delivering, or supports a government that delivers. That is what Nelson Harvey has stood for. We have a law society of Kenya that is creating a conundrum around its elections to support a candidature that is fronted by a government, a government of the day. That does not guarantee the law society of Kenya any clear instance that we are going to have a society that is growing and moving. A society that fronts people that are supporting government is not a society that can guarantee its members growth. And that is why we are saying that this year, 2018, and moving forward, is our annus mirabilis.
Hey, okay. What is
annus mirabilis? Meaning that this is our miraculous year. We could have had annus horribilis in 2017, a very horrible year. But this year, we are not allowing ourselves to be taken over by cartels and their surrogates, scoundrels that are going to stop institutions from moving forward in establishing and performing their mandate.
So I'm asking, as LSK, you guys are the law protectors and basically the people who interpret the law for the nation. If you guys cannot combat the corruption in your own system, how will you combat the corruption in the government?
We are so intent on combating it. That's why today...
How do you know it's not propaganda? What evidence do you guys have that there are cartels being forwarded?
Well, let me answer that. When Nelson Harvey submitted his candidature, his nomination, we had the cartels and their surrogates in the name of Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, Charles Kanjama, Paul Mwite, who have influence over the LSK over a long period of time, discussing the candidate of Nelson Harvey and saying that you see Nelson Harvey does not meet the qualifications. How did they know that Nelson Harvey does not meet the qualifications? And they were discussing it in the WhatsApp group of Nairobi lawyers, where the CEO and the secretary of the LSK are members. So then, an evening after that, we have a memo from the LSK through the secretary and the CEO saying that you see, Nelson Harvey is not qualified. So then who influenced that decision? It's the same people. So we are not going to allow a society that is corrupted with corruptibles and scoundrels that are developing thick skin for various cases in the Supreme Court and controlling the High Court.
Basically,
we are not going to have that country. That is what we have said no to. And that is why we are saying that the age limit must fall. Yeah, it's that simple.
We are not going to stand for stooges. We are not going to stand for people who are so intent on holding on to power to control the only organization in Kenya that can actually make our country peaceful and forward-thinking. Because you see, all these people are the people who are involved in the political cases that have been going on. They're the reason why the country is tearing apart. Because they keep giving the wrong legal advice. They keep asking people to do things that are illogical. They're not trying to follow the law. They're trying to follow their own interests. And you know, for example, if I'm your lawyer and I give you advice, of course you're going to follow it. How do you know that it's good or bad? You don't. Only I do. But the bottom line is, these people have been there for so long. They want to stay in a particular, should I call it, year of their life?
Yeah, there's a war.
Oh, there is a war. We are having a war as we speak. And as young advocates, we are not going to stand it. Nelson Harvey must be put on the ballot. If he's not put on the ballot, we are boycotting the elections. We are not going to have LSK elections. We are not going to be imposed on to people who have absolutely no vision. We are not going to have kids of government being given power for the one and only organization that can actually foster change in this country. Because who else gives advice on the laws governing this country? Who else is going to tell you that if you're going to take a debt from China of this much, these are, first of all, somebody will give you advice on the financial consequences, but only a lawyer will give you advice on the legal consequences, because first of all, we are not able to pay our debts to external funders. And it's only an no offense to our seniors, but it's only an idiot who would stand for such a situation. And as young lawyers, we know all this burden is going to fall on us, first as young lawyers, and second as the youth of this country. So we refuse. Either Nelson Harvey is put on the ballot. As we speak right now, his case has started. Submissions have started as we speak right now. Nelson Harvey must be put on the ballot. If Nelson Harvey is not put on the ballot, you shall see an uprising from the young lawyers of this country.
Where? Yes. Okay. Let me conclude that one there. Because after it seems, hey, we can discuss this for over an hour. Now, let's take a step back to last year, during the time in which the election was nullified. And that was for many young people, that was the first time they saw LSK come out strong and contribute towards mitigating the process. What can you say was the role of young people in LSK during that time? Mlifanya nini, like Wakili Ochieng?
Oh, wow. We know young people are always resilient and aggressive, and that is what defines then a society that we must have moving forward. And as you have witnessed, after the 26th election, which I don't consider as an election, though I consider it as I can say a coronation ritual to usher in a regime that had been rejected by the people. During that time, everybody feared to submit or to file a petition at the Supreme Court to challenge the illegitimate coronation of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. So who did we see?
We are not allowed to go in.
Fine. So who did we see then championing the interests of the people? We saw youths. We saw youths like Bruce petitioning, because there are people who have said that whatever it be, liwe liwalo, juu chini, kushoto kulea, kunyeshe kuwake, we must have a nation that appreciates the youth. And that is why we saw only the youthful petitioning. Apart from the guy from Ukambani, what is his name? The guy from Ukambani who petitioned, we only had 2 petitions who were championed by the youths. So that is an expression that the youth still hold the foothold for this country.
Speaking of the youth in terms of law and participation, let's go back to LSK.
Yes.
Now, apparently there was a massive failure of law students during last year's examinations. What can you say is the cause of that? And the way last year we saw so many young lawyers, even in the Supreme Court, there was somebody there with Fred Ngatia, a young lady. We've seen so many young lawyers come forward. So what can you say could be the reason for this failure?
Massive failure of lawyers is a creation of the media. It is not something that exists.
I beg to differ.
Massive failure of lawyers has been championed by the media, and especially the mainstream media, because it's different when you go to social media. The mainstream media has been putting the lawyers that have been in long practice to a rarefied field, and then vilifying the young lawyers. Because why? Look at it. Patrick Loch Otieno Lumumba resigned from being the director of the Kenya School of Law. Why did he resign? Massive failure. What determined the massive failure? There are people at the Kenya School of Law, like I was taught by a madam called Kokimbulu, people who go to class and their basic interest in that class is to fail students. A person who scored an A at Maranda High School, like myself, a person who scored an A at Alliance High School, a person who scored an A at Moi Girls Kabarak, a person who scored an A at Stare Girls Sentence School, and went to law school, the University of Nairobi, Riara University, Strathmore University School of Law, Moi University School of Law, cannot fail at the Kenya School of Law. The teacher has failed that student.
Because
and therefore, we cannot say that, you see, young lawyers are failing at the Kenya School of Law. That is a fallacy. And therefore, we must have the media going into details into determining what exactly determines the failure of these students, these bright, brave, brilliant students at the Kenya School of Law. You cannot tell me that we registered 10,000 students at the Kenya School of Law and 90% fail. That is not fail. It's like sanitizing the failure that we have seen in the Matiang'i regime in the KCPE and the KCSE. You cannot tell me 90% of students are failing.
Let's conclude that one real quick.
So that is a fallacy.
Okay, maybe I can put in something. I thought he was going to say something different when I said I beg to differ. But I think up to a point we agree with each other. The LSK, I was there in 2015. There is mass failure. A lecturer walks into class. Of course, the lecturer is referred to. Thank God she had gone by the time I came in. She had been fired.
Hey, you too. There's vendetta is being fought here.
Secondly, a lecturer will walk into class, sit in front, and then tell you, present from January, present to December. And then she'll sit there, either doze off or get on her phone. And
I think that's a common problem in many universities,
secondly,
not only Kenya School of Law.
Secondly, something I found out accidentally. I posted on my Facebook page about the fact that there is the constant failure in KSL and nobody can explain it. And then, you know, somebody I knew when I was in undergrad commented about how law students don't read anymore, about how somebody is going to answer a question haphazardly. When I checked, I remember that person because there are what we call moot competitions in law. I did a moot with them. I know they have not gone to Kenya School of Law. I know they have not practiced. And this particular person is marking papers for KSL students contracted by CLE, the Council of Legal Education is the one that administers the exams. So how can you tell me if I have not gone through Kenya School of Law, I have not done the bar exams, I have not done practice at all, I lecture 24/7, how on earth are you going to tell me that I have the requisite experience to mark your paper for you? Because Kenya School of Law is purely practice, which means you need, for example, as a broadcaster, you need to have practice to be able to tell somebody how to broadcast.
That's true.
So what is this that CLE is trying to do? How do they expect they're called theoreticians or theorists? How do they expect theorists to come here and start marking practical? I think we need to do away with Kenya School of Law. I think we need to do away with CLE. I think we need to do away with this new proposal about a pre-bar
exams.
There's the pre-bar exams, we need to do away with that. Or if we're going to do a pre-bar exam, they need to justify why we are doing a pre-bar exam and not the crap load they're telling us. And then there's this new one that was proposed last week. Before you join the university, you need to do, let me use the word pre-law. What is pre-law? What are they trying to do? This is money minting, and we refuse money minting. No. And you know, if you're going to study law, you're studying law out of passion. Most people study law out of passion. Most of them can't afford it. I have friends who have been unable to even go to this Kenya School of Law because they can't afford it. And then you get into Kenya School of Law and you are failed as a statistic, not because you don't know, as a statistic. Now, if you failed, you have two options, either receipt or remark. And if you sit or remark, you have to pay for those two at the same time. Which means what? It's 10,000 to remark, no, to receipt, and 15,000 to remark. So you have to pay 25,000. And at that particular time, you're probably making 10,000 as a pupil in a law firm somewhere.
Hey, I can see why there's a lot of fire with the government in LSK because clearly you guys have, I can already tell many of your agendas.
You need a brave new bar.
There's a long list of agendas. Speaking of things that people can't afford, you just talked about guys who want to go to law school but can't afford it. What about the reverse situation? Can you talk to us about pro bono? Like you said, you're a soft lawyer. I'd like for you to explain to the Why in the Morning family what a soft lawyer is.
Okay. I run a company. I'm the CEO of a company called LawyerSoft Limited. LawyerSoft produces technology for the legal sector. Our flagship product is an app called Lawyer. You can get it on your Android app. We are yet to get into the iPhone store. The, what is it called?
App Store.
App Store. We are yet to get into the App Store. Right now, we're on Play Store. You get into that app, you can get a lawyer. There are listed lawyers covering different areas of the law. Those ones you can talk to, they advise you. And
is it free? Is the advice
the app is free for you. The only time you incur cost is if, for example, you engage my services. You want for me to draft you a contract, or you want me to represent you in court. Then we discuss fees outside the app, which means you have a pool of lawyers. If this one is too expensive, you can immediately consult the next one.
Okay, even the lawyers went digital.
Yes. So now the issue of pro bono, the LSK provides a free legal aid day once a year.
Yes.
My app has a Facebook page called Lawyer, and we give free legal advice as needed. If you post on the page today or you DM the page today, you will get a response. Sometimes it's me giving direct response, sometimes it's my colleagues giving the response, because you can respond it from anywhere. It's Facebook. This is now our main agenda was to cover this access to justice gap.
Oh,
You should be able to access a lawyer from the comfort of your couch.
yes.
A lawyer is not, as the seniors are trying to make it look, a lawyer is not something that is next to God. Come on. It's a profession like any other. So this is why you see us fighting so much against the LSK. They have made it so difficult for the young lawyer to break into the market. Yet, how many people are there in Kenya? 40 million?
Yeah.
40 million who are going to be
vis-a-vis 15,000.
It makes no sense. You cannot monopolize a profession. So what I did, I opened it up to the market. Talk to a lawyer whenever, wherever. The positive thing is the former LSK president is actually on the app. He seemed to support the idea, so we added him on the app. If you look at the list of lawyers on Lawyer, you will find him there.
Okay, so if you do want legal advice, you can find it on Facebook conveniently. Wakili,
Yeah.
I really want your opinion on this pro bono issue, because I remember asking you about it earlier and you were like, what is that? So,
Okay.
so can you please say something?
You see, the world has moved capitalistic. That is true. We can't deny. So on Dan and Bill, we minimize pro bono services. Yeah, but of course you can always come. If we are capable of offering the pro bono services, we will do. We are service oriented. That is what we are. So I invite the public on because there are people that cannot afford genuinely.
Yeah.
Then there are people that can afford but also want to. We know how to gauge.
Okay.
Those who cannot afford genuinely, will be ready to always assist. So come to us on Dan and Bill. We'll assist when we are capable.
Well, earlier when I was talking to Rose, I mentioned this pauper briefs. Yeah, and they waive 30,000 shillings. And I'm just wondering, what does the Constitution say about pro bono services? Are you guys obligated to give them, or it's something that you decide to do?
No, the Constitution is silent as to that, as to such matters. These are things that existed. You see, people like Senior Counsel Paul Mwite started pro bono services in the times when the Mau Mau did not have access to legal services. Nobody could represent them. So these are the instances when we started having the pro bono services. But when the practice and the system, of course, moved from the colonial era to a highly capitalistic state like Kenya we are in today, lawyers have really engaged much onto what do I have before I offer the service. But still, we have people like me and my partner Dan that can still offer the pro bono services when we are really capable.
So do you it as CSR or?
Not really, but the Constitution is silent on pro bono services. Yeah.
So you basically, it's your choice whether or not you gauge your
out
clients
of the goodness of your heart.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. You have been watching Youth and Politics with myself, Hilda Wadidi. Do always keep it here every Monday to catch this segment. Wakili Ochieng, Rose Wanjala, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Yes. Keep it right in the morning. Don't touch that dial. Val is coming up with Man Crush Monday.